Welcome to Lille and the Stade Pierre Mauroy here in the town. Rather nice, tidy looking stadium. We were inside yesterday. It's got this just a mesh all over the outside, covering what is largely concrete shell, but it's one of the many neat and refurbished arenas for this tournament. And of course this afternoon, in just over 45 minutes time, it will host Russia's game against Slovakia. A game that is taken on a great deal more resonance than simply what happens on the field, because of the ban, the suspended disqualification handed down to Russia yesterday by UEFA, the governing body of this tournament, who have said that if there is a repeat inside there of what happened in Marseille, when a large group of Russian fans charged across the segregation through the stewards and attacked some English supporters, if there's a repeat of that kind of violence, then Russia will be thrown out of the tournament. So they're very much on notice, and that message seems to have got through to the supporters. Those we've spoken to here all said communication hasn't been always seamless. My Russian is much worse than many of their English, but the message has been, as one man said to me, we play by the rules, we understand we could be thrown out. So it's all very well behaved. It should be said, these kind of Russian fans like these in their team colours, and many others behaving just as they did in Marseille, totally peacefully, totally relaxed, enjoying the game, no trouble at all. The issue in Marseille was a very small group of what we now know were described ultra-violent, ultra-rapid hooligans, which meant that this site behind me here, the French authorities in their riot gear, was a much more regular sight. But these guys, how many we got here? We got 5 in riot gear, very much the exception. A few more over there behind me actually. But they're there and just in case, and they're certainly not deployed in any kind of a threatening manner or appearing to be on a combat footing, which was what happened in Marseille and which helped tick up the tension in the atmosphere. This game, actually, if I could be rash enough to actually talk about football, a very important one for Slovakia. They lost their opening game to Wales. Russia, of course, drew with England. A win here for Russia would put them in a very strong position in the group, and it would turn up the tension and the pressure on England, who play Wales tomorrow. Wales won their first game against Slovakia. Defeat to Wales, if Russia win here, would put the top 2 places in the group in the hands of Russia and Wales from their final game. Leave England needing a win against Slovakia and then hoping that they secure one of these best 3rd place finishes. Still do well to get knocked out, but let's not completely discount it as a possibility. So, I have some questions. Are there problems with Russian hooligans in other tournaments? There's a hooligan problem and a racism problem in Russian football. I'm not saying that applies to those guys behind me, of course. Domestically, there's a problem, big problem. It's linked to there are hooligan groups linked to the far right, linked to senior politicians, it should be said. One of the leaders of the Russian Supporters Federation has clear and declared right-wing links, and is very close to Vitaly Mutko, the president of the Russian FA and the FIFA Exco member, the sports minister also. And that guy sat on Russia's Football Federation. So there's a political problem, and there was a problem at Euro 2012 in Poland-Ukraine, when violence by Russian supporters saw them given a suspended points deduction. I suspect that punishment, which expired just before this tournament, informed the decision to act pretty tough yesterday on them. And of course we've seen these ultras running rings round the police and picking off English supporters in Marseille. Have other teams ever been suspended for bad behaviour in fans? No, there is no precedent for this. That's why it's quite a big deal for UEFA to make the threat, and why many of us think it's probably still quite remote as a possibility. The idea that they would actually be thrown out is a distant one. However, if they rampage across the stadium into the Slovakian fans, then it's going to have to happen. I personally don't believe it will happen. I think the message has got through, And Russia-Slovakia, not dissimilar to England-Wales as a game. 8 countries from the same corner of the world. One, the big superpower, if you like. The other, a sporting nation, a younger sporting nation. That, of course, doesn't apply to Wales, but it is a derby. And there may be more that unites than divides, let's put it that way. Who's looking likely to win, Russia or Slovakia? I would say the Russians would be favourites. Slovakia were not unimpressive against Wales, but they went behind to an early goal from Gareth Bale. Of course, they came back into the game, and Wales did beat them. Russia were pretty much outplayed, I thought, by England, certainly in the first half. They came back into the game, they showed a bit of technical ability, which I think Roy Hodgson's men expected. Roy Hodgson certainly expected them to be technical. They didn't seem to carry a great goal threat, but then their centre-half scored a fine header in the last minute. I would expect the form book would say that Russia would win. Here's some Slovakians heading through. Love a Viking helmet. Let's face it, we all love a Viking helmet. There we go. Butter wouldn't melt. This is a tour group by the looks of it. So perhaps the form book would say Russia, but this doesn't appear to be an outstanding Russian team to me, and they're short their 2 best players. How have Russia responded? Well, it's been mixed. There was a sort of familiar pattern in the immediate aftermath of the violence. There was denial. There were suggestions that it was a conspiracy. Then we had just a few hours before UEFA's verdict, the judgment that they would have this suspended disqualification, we had condemnation from the Kremlin, from the government, condemnation of the violence by supporters. So a change of tack, apology, backing off. The response in a press conference here yesterday, where I spoke to Artem Zubia, the centre forward, who was put up by the Russians. He spoke very, very well and very, very eloquently, and he did not take a backward step. He said British media were over-egging this, that it wasn't just the Russians, it was 50-50. We are all here, the British media, thinking our fans are angels, and we need to take a look at ourselves and a look at their behaviour. I agree with him. Not all English fans are angels. Some of the behaviour in Marseille was really distasteful, antisocial to a degree that you would be appalled at if it was in your own town. And hurling bottles at the police feels like something that's very hard to justify, even if you do feel you have been provoked. But they didn't appear to be rampaging, deliberately trying to start trouble, which was the difference between them and that small group of Russians. So the danger with all of this is that feeling that a victimisation by the English leads to the normalisation of that kind of violent and antisocial counter. It's not okay to throw bottles, in my view. It's not okay to throw them at the police, and you wouldn't expect it to happen in the UK, so why would you do it here? Of course, if someone is attacking you physically, you're going to defend yourself, that's different. Why do Slovakians wear Viking helmets, I'm asked? I've got no idea. Do you need an excuse? I'm not sure you do. Isn't there a drinking ban? Are people drinking there today? I'm asked by several people. There is a ban. It's quite specific. You can have a drink in a bar or a restaurant. What you can't, you can drink in the fan zone in Lille, and you can drink in here. What you can't do is buy alcohol off sales. You can't buy it from a supermarket or a market or a wine shop, and then so you can't do that from 6 o'clock last night till 0600 tomorrow. And you can't drink on the streets. You can't even drink soft drinks on the streets if they're in bottles or cans. And the reason for this is partly less booze equals hopefully better public order, but fewer empty beer bottles means less ammunition. There was a pretty toxic combination of cause and effect in Marseille, where people were drinking, the bars were packed, some were closed, people were going to the markets, buying 6, 12 packs, cases of bottled beer, drinking them, and of course those empties, insufficient waste bins, no attempt by the authorities to clean them up, those empty bottles became missiles, and it was really ugly. It was a sea of broken glass, and it was pretty dangerous. Would this impact Russia in other tournaments if they were suspended here? Very, very good question, because if they were suspended here, the next tournament that they might be affected is the 2018 World Cup. Let's just check, where's that? Russia. They will be thrown out of the tournament before the one they're hosting, a moment of great national pride. And we again have been told, the British media, that we're obsessing about Russia hosting the next World Cup. It's an obvious question to ask. If you've got a hooligan problem that is so bad you've been ejected, what on earth can the world expect when it arrives in Russia? So there will be an impact, but I would imagine there'll be questions whether anything will change. I would be absolutely astonished. I think I've got more chance of playing for Russia than we have of the Russian World Cup being taken away by FIFA at 2 years' notice. Same questions come with their penalty for Russia as a World Cup host. There'll be pressure for it, but I'm not sure anything would happen. Anyway, all of that is hypothetical, and let's hope it remains so, because this looks like it's going to be a very pleasant atmosphere, a nice game. We're going to go in and take a look, enjoy the game, hopefully with no pressure and no incidents other than on the field. And then we're all crossing our fingers that tonight in Lille, Russian fans return and tens of thousands of English have arrived. Things pass off peacefully. Fingers crossed.